My name is Yair Davidiy. I'm speaking to you from the land of Israel. I represent Brit-Am, Hebrew nations, a movement that finds and researches the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes, and we have found the lost 10 tribes amongst Western nations. These are nations of Western Europe and the British Isles, including Ireland, and the offshoots overseas in North America, Australia and New Zealand. And we have researched this, and we do research on it, and we also publish the results of our research and propagate the message. And our sources are from the Bible, from rabbinical sources, commentating on the Bible, from ancient traditions, from legends, linguistics, mythology, archaeology, sometimes DNA, anything which somehow or other is pertinent to the subject. We research it and we show how all the different sources converge in the one direction, and they prove that the lost 10 tribes are now amongst Western nations, and that especially those of the British Isles and offshoots in North America, Australia and New Zealand are especially from Joseph, from the tribes of Joseph, from Manasseh, and we prove it, and we have books that prove it, that explore it, go into depth on this matter, on different aspects of the subject. Some of our books are general works, give a general overviews of the studies, and others of them that go deeper, go down deep into specific aspects of what we have. So one of our books is Ephraim, the Gentile Children of Israel, and this book explores the whole issue, but it concentrates upon what we could say rabbinical sources, and Talmud and Midrashim, traditions of the rabbis, and it shows how these sources also confirm, and these sources incidentally are based on the Bible, and they explain aspects of the Bible, and they too show how the lost 10 tribes are amongst Western nations. Different points, bring up different points. So one of the points is that the Tudor Rose, that is a traditional symbol of England or Britain, is also the symbol of Israel according to the Zohar, which is a Jewish mystical work dating back to ancient times. So this too is proof. Also, we have legends concerning the Rechabites and the children of Moses who were attached to those 10 tribes, and they are described as being in the Western Isles and Ireland and in Brit-Am. So this too is proof, and we bring all different sources from different directions and show how they all of them point in the same path, along the same pathway, and we help us locate the lost 10 tribes in the British Isles. We also have a book on David and Bathsheba. A book on David and Bathsheba, another story of King David, how he took Bathsheba, and he also, according to the simple meaning upon the superficial reading, he caused the death of Uriah the Hittite, who was described as the husband of Bathsheba. So we show how this is not exactly how it seems. We go into what the biblical text actually does say, according to the Hebrew and according to other sources. We go into this and we look at it, and we show that David was not as culpable. He was punished. He did sin, but he did not sin as grievously as we would think. That there were extenuating circumstances, and that the Bathsheba was not actually the legal wife of Uriah, and there were other issues at stake. And we help exonerate David, and this is important because David is the founder of the ruling house of Israel, who is destined to rule over Israel. The Messiah will come from David. And also, incidentally, whilst exploring this and describing it, we also go into aspects of the biblical life, of the biblical existence of the Israelite kingdoms of that time. And we bring up a lot of general information which is of importance and interest. We have the tribes, this book, the tribes, the Israelite origins of Western people. And this book shows how the different Israelite tribes were part of the 10 tribes who were taken away by the Assyrians and lost consciousness of their ancestry. Even so, they retained a physical cohesiveness. They remained together in different groups, and these groups migrated to the west. And we showed that how in the west they converged and they became once again identifiable as Israelite tribes, different groups from the Israelite nations, tribal clans who we trace according to their namesakes as given in the Bible, through Asian maps and maps of Ptolemy, through their national characteristics which are similar to those of the Israelite tribes, and through a lot of different, each tribe has its own individual component, own individual points of identification, but we are unable to, using these different proofs, to show where the tribes were centered, where groups belonged to the tribes centered to recoalesce, to converge, and they gave expression to their tribal ancestry, and they may now be identified as saying that within these regions, certain Israelite tribes became dominant. For instance, Ephraim became dominant in Britain, in England, and parts of Scotland and Ireland. Manasseh became dominant in the USA. That is, British people from the different specific areas of Britain, whom we may relate back to Manasseh, tended to become prominent in the USA, and also the USA has characteristics pertaining to Manasseh. Even the very name America is derived from the Hebrew HaMechiri, meaning the Mechir. Those are descendants of Mechir, the son of Manasseh. France, we show how France is dominated by groups who may be traced back according to their names, according to their characteristics to Reuben. Simeon was scattered. He was in Ireland, he was in Wales, he was amongst Celtic peoples, but he was in different groups. Levi too was scattered, but mainly with Judah. Yehuda is dominant amongst the Jews, the present-day Jewish people, but offshoots from Judah also found amongst the 10 tribes in different areas. The Issachar, the tribe of Issachar, became prominent amongst the Swiss people and also amongst the Finnish people. Zebulun in the Netherlands, in Holland. Even we had a people named Zebulun Goy in ancient times. Goy means people, Zebulun means Zebulun, and the word dwelt in Holland. So prophesied that Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea, and that is what the Dutch do, and the only people in the world who do, they literally speaking, do dwell on the seashores. Holland is almost entirely sand from the seashores, reclaimed sea land. And this is what was prophesied about Zebulun. This is where we find these people, Zebulun and Goy. So this too is a proof, and we show how the different identifications of the various tribes all tie in, all correspond to each other, or how even the configurations of the different tribes around each other and besides each other was retained or returned to itself through divine providence. So this too is a proof, and this too is of interest. We find Gad amongst the Swedes of Sweden, Asher in Ireland, also in Scandinavia. Benjamin was with the Jews mainly. Dan amongst the Danes of Denmark and also amongst the Celtic peoples, and Naphtali and the Norwegians. So this is this work of the tribes, a very interesting book, a vital book, and it has also been very successful. It's been well received. We have the book Chosen People. It describes specific aspects of the Jewish people, and also of the Anglo-Saxon or English-speaking nations whom we identify with Joseph. So both of them had their individual tasks, their divinely appointed tasks to fulfill that only they could do, and this is what they should concentrate upon doing. They should not interfere with each other, but they should know what they are about and what they have to do and what they were destined to do, and we show how through divine providence they were enabled to do it and did do it. This is the Chosen People. Chosen People. This Chosen People, an interesting book and worthwhile. Ancestry, the Hebrew identity of Celtic races. Ancestry. It shows how amongst the Celtic peoples, the so-called Celtic peoples of the British Isles and also of the Western Europe, especially France, were dominated or had a very strong input of Hebrew speakers, of people who spoke Hebrew at one stage, who were of Hebrew origin, and they even called themselves Iberi, meaning Hebrew. And they had numerous other namesakes and customs and so on, which prove their Israelite origin, and this is also confirmed by mythology, especially Irish legend and archaeology and other sources. This is it, ancestry, the Hebrew ancestry, the Hebrew identity of Celtic races. Ancestry, the Hebrew identity of Celtic races. Rule the world. How? The British and Americans proved they descend from Joseph and the 10 lost tribes. This describes how Joseph was destined to rule the world, to influence all the nations of the earth, to uplift the Gentiles, to possess the strategic thoroughfares of the earth as prophesied. And this is what they have done, and it describes how they did it. It gives a historical background, it gives a geopolitical reality in our times, showing how the first the British and then the Americans have followed the same policies in their military and foreign practices, how they have done the same thing that it was prophesied that they would do, and how they have fulfilled the task of Joseph and influenced all the peoples of the earth, and this is what their destiny was. Origin describes the historical migrations of the 10 tribes from the east to the west. It gives an overall view. It also goes through the books of the Bible, each and every biblical book, and describes those prophecies pertinent to the lost 10 tribes in the end times. It's a short book, but it is quite comprehensive and quite valuable. Joseph, the Israelite destiny of America, describes the task of Joseph, how the Americans and the British and the offshoots of the British fulfill the task of Joseph. It also discusses the aspects of Messiah, son of Joseph, in biblical exegesis, and in Jewish thought there's the concept of two Messiahs, Messiah son of David and Messiah son of Joseph. Messiah son of David relates more to Judah, more to the religious aspect of redemption. Mr. Messiah son of Joseph relates more to the 10 tribes, and how traditions concerning Messiah son of Joseph have been fulfilled to some degree amongst the Anglos, and that is the English-speaking peoples. Biblical truth, the lost 10 tribes of Israel in the west, according to the book of Genesis, goes through the promises and the predictions concerning Israel in the end times, toward the end times, and that we show how these promises were actually to pertain to the lost 10 tribes, and how they were fulfilled in history and in reality, and how the Bible predicted that which came to pass indeed did so. And it goes through the book of Genesis and takes each and every verse pertaining to the 10 tribes and explains what it says, what it means in the Hebrew origin, and the Hebrew original, and it explains how it was fulfilled in actuality. Bible Basics describes basic principles of the Bible, of exegesis, of how we interpret the Bible and what the Bible says. It shows, it gives proofs of certain issues that have come up in the past on the various matters. We prove that Ruth was a Moabite, and that she converted, and that from her will come the David, the Messiah. We also show the importance of this process of thought, of this way of interpreting the Bible, and this is a basic work. Esau, Edomites today. Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau is also known as Edom. Jacob was renamed Israel. From Israel come the 12 tribes of Israel. From Esau, Edom came the Edomites. The Edomites were to be important in history. They were to be parallel to the Israelites. They were to play a parallel role in history. They have been very important in the development of mankind. They gave some input to the development of the civilizations of China and Japan. The early founders of Rome were also from Esau, So were some of the Greeks of the city of Sparta, different entities in Europe were of Edomite stock, and we just trace them, we describe them, we give historical proofs concerning them. In each and every area we give an explanation of it, and we give proofs that there was an element of Esau amongst the populations in question. Germany and Edom. Esau, that is Edom, was to be very important in Germany. Germany became, in a sense, to some way, the Edomite nation par excellence. There Edom gave expression to his national ambitions, his national strivings, his personality became reflected amongst the German people. We discuss this and we prove it, and we have a discussion on this issue. We have more books. Along these same lines, on this subject. But from what you have seen now, you have seen that we have a lot to talk about, a lot to give, and our works have been relatively well received by people who have read them, or who have researched them, or people who have tried to check out our sources. At first they began with a great deal of skepticism, but afterwards, after checking our sources and going through our process of thought, they became convinced, and we have something to back up our claims up with. And these works are what we have and what we do, and we are in effect the only ones doing it. So it's worth supporting us, and worth your while to check it out for yourself. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.